Today I'd like to answer a question that it's one of those questions that I get from both sides of infidelity. The unfaithful will say, Sam, listen, I'm going to ask you this question. Don't shame me for it, but here's the deal. How long will my betrayed spouse be so angry? And then I get the same question just kind of pushed to me differently from betrayeds, which is, Sam, how long am I going to feel like this? Like, how long am I going to lash out? How long am I going to have this anger that seems uncontrollable one minute, then the next minute I can't stop crying? I'm fluctuating between these emotions. Like, how long is this anger going to be a part of my life? Am I always going to be this angry? And today I'd like to answer that question in a way that I truly believe is palatable and filled with truths that at some level, this is not a one-size-fits-all answer, but there's going to be some great truths in this video to help you, regardless of where you or your spouse fit into the timeline, if you will, or the pie chart of reactions of the betrayed spouse. If you study infidelity, you understand that there is no trend that says, well, males who are betrayed act this way, females who are betrayed act this way. Absolutely not. There's just too many personality profiles out there, and a classic mistake is to say, well, men feel this and women feel that. That's absolutely not true. They spill over all the time. And the better, more effective way to understand it is, yes, there are some trends associated with the way a betrayed male is going to feel. They're going to be a little bit more prone towards hiding and shame and feeling the I couldn't measure up type feeling. However, women feel that as well. And so, women may feel more like, well, I couldn't compete with her because she was X, Y, and Z, and I couldn't compete with the way that, she did this, but that's not true because men feel that as well. It really comes down more to the fact that certain people react to pain and trauma differently. Some people have an enormous amount of rage. They may throw things, they may lash out. Some just crawl up in the fetal position and feel an enormous amount of emotion and hurt and pain and kind of shut down, and then there's everything in between. To tell you a little bit about Samantha so that you can maybe feel normal or maybe feel better. Samantha, when she found out, she was so overcome with emotion that we had to take breaks. It took about 2 hours for me to tell her everything. She had to take breaks to actually vomit. She had to take breaks to contain herself. She had to kind of take breaks to take care of our 6-week-old child at the time of disclosure. And so she was overwhelmed with emotion, and it was very traumatizing. So she was hurt, she was devastated, and the anger was there, but it took a good few days for the anger to start. And when it hit, about 5 or 6 days later, it really hit, so much so that my daughter was done with a dollhouse that was in our backyard in California. She had just said, I don't like it anymore. And so on this particular day, the anger was pretty extreme. And so Samantha went into the garage and got a pickaxe. And the dollhouse was made out of plywood and other types of softer wood. And Samantha put on work gloves and went outside, unbeknownst to me. And all I heard was this commotion and this ungodly just pounding and crushing. And so I ran outside. And I look, and here's Samantha. If you've seen her on video, she's petite, 5'9", very controlled, beautiful and elegant. She has work gloves on. She has her hair in a bun, and she's crushing a dollhouse. And the neighbors who ran a daycare in their home, their kids were popping their heads over the brick wall, staring at Samantha, who was not stopping, though little children were watching her. One of the neighbors actually poked his head over the wall and knew enough to go back down and not say anything. And I walked out and I said, my eyes were about this big. I said, honey, do you think that this is wise to to do? Do you think this is smart? And she said, do you think that you need to tell me anything right now? And I said, not at all. I'll go back inside. I took my children back inside, and she absolutely devastated that dollhouse. Over the next 6 months, there was an enormous amount of anger, ups and downs, emotions, trauma, just flooding that would happen. So you may say, how long will it last? Well, here's the thing that can shorten how long the anger can last. The reaction of the unfaithful can help determine how long that anger will last. If we don't understand how we can help them, we can actually prolong the anger. As long as we continue to get defensive, as long as we continue to lash out, as long as we continue to minimize and justify and blame the betrayed, we're going to add fuel to the fire. As long as we refuse to do repair work, as long as we refuse to cooperate with maybe our professional therapist, as long as we refuse to do an online course or do anything that could help the relationship or calm the anger or flooding, as long as we do that, we won't watch videos, we won't be involved, we won't do anything, that will only reinforce the anger and help fuel the anger that you so desperately want to get rid of. As long as we have more disclosures, as long as there are multiple D-days, as long as we keep drip feeding information, why should we be surprised that there's more and more anger, more and more resentment, more and more raging by the betrayed, and that's male or female? As long as we exhibit those behaviors, how can we expect them to get a handle on their anger when we still keep pouring fuel to the fire of their anger and there's more to be angry about? Now, I'm in no way justifying violence, physical abuse, any of that stuff. I'm not even justifying them shaming you and belittling you and all of that. I get messages about that all the time. I'm not justifying that. But for you to expect them to have a perfect response to life-changing trauma is absurd and naive. And you may say, well, I just want them to have a normal reaction. Well, I'm sorry. They wanted a normal marriage and they didn't get that. So we're in this together now. So for you to continue to kind of shame them or use their reaction against them when you're the impetus for their reaction is dysfunctional and hurtful and extremely problematic to any form of healing in your relationship. Until we can become a safe vessel for their anger and their pain and their flooding, you're not going to see their anger dissipate very much at all. Does that mean that you're a doormat? No. But does that mean that you fight back? No. That means that when Samantha was flooding, the best thing that I could do is I could say, I'm sorry. I know. I will do whatever it takes to help us heal. I don't have any answers. I'll do everything I can to find answers. As long as my volume got up, as long as I got defensive, as long as I allowed my shame to cause me to lash back out at her, I would lose and there would be more and more anger. Finally, and Samantha will tell you this, she said this on video before, but finally there came a point where I just stopped fighting back and I just stopped trying to defend the 20 or 10% that she was wrong and just embrace the 80 or 90% that she was right on, or just even listen to her and be a safe vessel for her to emote and talk about her pain and not try and fix it. When I did that, her anger significantly dropped. And she would tell you, when I became safe, she kind of ran out of the fuel and was like, he's not fighting back. He's not lashing out. He's not becoming self-absorbed and wallowing in self-pity. He's just listening. Well, I'm tired of being angry. That's kind of what happened. She got tired of being so angry because I wasn't fueling the fire. I was suffocating the fire by just being compassionate and listening and embracing. Obviously, the caveat to that is there comes a point where there's lashing out, there's shaming, there's, harassing, all of those types of things, 40 text messages in 30 minutes while you're at work or what have you. And that's where you have to call a timeout. If you need the timeout protocol that we have, please message me on one of our platforms. I'd be happy to get you the timeout protocol. It's something that has to be embraced by both parties. To get into the nuts and bolts, you say, Sam, well, how long? How long are they going to be this angry? Even though I have some control in it, what can I expect? So let me give you 4 stages that are vital to understanding how long the betrayed, male or female, is probably going to experience significant anger and what that looks like as it unfolds. The first stage is the discovery phase, and in that phase is usually the understanding that it takes about sometimes between 2 and 6 weeks for full and total disclosure to come out. It's our expectations at affairrecovery.com that in the initial 6 weeks, there should be no more disclosure information. It should all be out. There should not be any more multiple D-days. All of the information should pretty much be out there to process and embrace. Because if there's more information, you never really get beyond this discovery phase. You're kind of stuck there because you're constantly, as a betrayed, discovering there's constantly gasoline being poured on the fire. So to expect them to have their anger dissipate when they're being re-traumatized time and time again just isn't accurate. Next, the reaction phase. And that typically is somewhere within about 6 months. It is after that initial 6 weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks for you, up until somewhere we would hope around 6 months. Now, obviously there's a variance. For some people it might be a little bit longer, could be a little bit shorter. But at some level, that 6 months is where you have started to embrace all that has happened. You are starting to experience grief. The betrayed is grieving. The unfaithful is probably grieving. They are grieving through the loss of the life that they once had. The unfaithful is grieving the loss of the affair partner and probably has really moved beyond that. The betrayed is grieving all their losses and their pain, and they're still grieving, but they are moving into a sense where there is healthy empathy, where there is compassion, where there is momentum, where there is involvement with repair work, and both have started to take significant ownership of their own repair work. Next is what I call the momentum stage, and that's typically 7 to 9 months to about 12 months, maybe a little bit longer. In this momentum stage, recovery work has taken effect. Trust is pretty significant, although it's not just a blind trust, but there's significant trust. Repair work, recovery work is in full steam ahead. Both parties are committed. Both parties are doing what it takes. They are gaining a sense of, I'm so glad that we gave this relationship a chance. I'm experiencing a sense of love again. I'm experiencing and have worked through forgiveness. And forgiveness is tricky, as you've watched videos by me before. You've forgiven. That doesn't mean that there won't be more forgiveness later. It doesn't mean that there won't be some more trauma that comes up and you say, whoa, I didn't even know this was here. And you can forgive that too and move forward. But forgiveness has taken root. Also, the unfaithful has gained an understanding of why they had their affair. It doesn't mean that their why won't evolve. I can tell you at about a year, I had a why. At 2, 3, 4, 5 years, my why expanded and really grew. At 10 years, 12, 15 years, my why is a whole lot more plain and a whole lot more well-rounded. And I can speak on a deep level as to why I was unfaithful. In that momentum stage, things are really moving almost so good, you kind of go, man, I'm a little bit worried. The recommitment stage is where we arrive at. That's typically 12 months to 18 to 24 months. It really varies. But in this kind of phase, you're both recommitted. There may have been a proposal by the unfaithful to marry the betrayed again. It's that significant. It's in this phase that, man, there's a healthy sense of renewal, revival, reconnection. There is a understanding that you are now far more resilient as a couple. You're better for it. You have gained a wide-angle lens that I'm so glad we stayed married. Look at what we could have lost, but look at what we have. And sure, accountability is in place. And sure, there are safety mechanisms that are in place and a part of their marriage. But in this phase, this is where life has sprung. And you, at this level, maybe you kind of go, I don't need Sam's videos anymore. But we'll make ones that kind of help you years down the road too. But it's at a phase where you're like, we feel healthy and strong. I'm not turning a blind eye to things, but we have so much momentum. I have hope. I have confidence. I'm secure in where we're at, and I have a vision for our future. Now, a caveat I need to tell you about is if your spouse is dealing with PTSD or complex PTSD, their timeline is going to look different. It still can be close to those timelines if they're getting expert help through something what we would call EMDR or ETT, which are wonderful forms of treatment for PTSD and complex PTSD. There's also the necessary use of medications that sometimes it takes a little while to find the right one or the right dosage, but it's absolutely essential that you give those things a chance to work if you're dealing with PTSD, because that is not just suck it up and move on. It doesn't work that way. Finally, I'd like to read you a couple of quotes from Shirley Glass in her book, Not Just Friends, which paints a wonderful picture of what recovering looks like and what healing actually looks like. Shirley Glass says, recovering means that the infidelity is no longer the focus of daily life. Each partner has regained equilibrium and is able to perform normal activities and can work together when they need to. Healing means that most of the time it hardly hurts at all. Both partners have regained hopefulness, confidence, and the resilience to recover from whatever losses may occur in the future. The healing couple proceeds in an atmosphere of safety, shared meaning, caring, commitment, and honest communication. You will know that the recovery process is on track if the affair is over, the unfaithful partner is visibly moving back into the marriage, and you're addressing the betrayed partner's unhealed wounds. Betrayed spouses who are recovering respond positively to the efforts of the unfaithful partners to provide reassurance and reestablish trust. The goal is to reestablish identity as a couple and put the past into perspective in spite of the pain that may persist at times. I hope this has helped you today. I hope that you feel encouraged. I hope that you maybe even feel kind of, hey, what am I doing? Where am I at? Where am I at in association with this kind of timeline? If you need a timeline to be sent to you, message me on one of the platforms and I'll send you a link to a recovery timeline that I've kind of discussed today. I'd like to do all I can to help you heal.